you and to celebrate Asian Heritage Month, we have a tennis goddess that I want to introduce you to. And of course, I'm an AAPITA board member, and we are celebrating tennis all this month, all year long, but especially right now. And I would love to introduce to you someone very special. She has won about 149 USTA Gold Ball championships. She played on the tour for about 10 years. She coached collegiately for 20 years. I want you to meet California native 72-year-old Tina Kawarsky. Tina, thank you so much for joining us. It's safe to say that tennis is in your blood, isn't it?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, it is.
Just tell me a little bit about your love and your passion for tennis. Let's just begin with that.
Yeah, I think I started playing when I was 9 years old, I think. And I guess I was a pretty hyperactive kid. I was always skateboarding or riding a scooter. So um, playing tennis just came naturally to me. Well, not
Tennis has, no, go ahead.
naturally, because we used heavy rackets back then. We used wooden rackets when I started, so it was hard keeping the ball on the court because I was so little and frail. We used these heavy rackets.
I hope you're not using a wooden racket still.
No one uses a wooden racket today. Yeah,
Well, I know it doesn't matter if it's wooden or not, you're still winning. As I mentioned before, 149 and counting, probably USTA Gold Ball championships. What keeps you going? You're 72, but it doesn't seem like any of it is stopping you.
I don't know. It keeps me going. I think it's just pretty competitive in nature, so I like to compete and I enjoy exercising, so it keeps me fit. But yeah, keeps me fit. But as you get older, you have more wear and tear injuries, so that you have to be careful of. So I'm very mindful of my shoulder. I try not to play with people that hit too overly hard. So, and I've had to give up running on the horse trails because it was too hard on my knees. So my physical therapist, said it's either tennis or running. So I had to give up running just to save my knees because they're wearing out. So
What continues to motivate you, though? I mean, do you still play singles, doubles? Tell us a little bit
I
about
play all of
your.
it, singles and doubles. I enjoy both. Doubles is easier because you have a partner you can talk to, so you can't be as nervous on the court. And singles is like one big jigsaw puzzle. When you're losing, you try to figure out a way to win. Um, it's difficult to come up with a strategy. You're always changing your strategy. What can I do to annoy my opponent? So, and my husband says I'm like a Labrador retriever. You throw the ball out there and I chase it. So I guess I'm trained to chase the ball all my life. So
I love that. And I know that you've played tennis on all levels, obviously, as a junior, collegiately,
yeah,
professionally, and now, at 72, you're still going. What is it about tennis? I mentioned, you mentioned a little bit earlier your passion, but what is it about tennis that keeps you going? I mean, every stage that you have played, you continue to stay motivated for so long.
well, I like going to the senior tournaments because I see people I used to compete against when I was a junior or when I was a pro. So it's very enjoyable to see them, see old friends, and it's fun to travel all across the country and sometimes across the world to tournaments. Like last year, we went to Antalya, Turkey, for the World Championships for the team representing the United States in my age group and individuals. So, and we had a blast in Turkey. It was so much fun. The food was wonderful. So, you wouldn't get a better breakfast, lunch, and dinner at your hotel. It's all inclusive than there with the Mediterranean food. It was great.
Well, Tina, I think before there was a Vanya King, who happens to be our APITA president, before Michael Chang, the
Uh-huh.
godfather of Asian American tennis, before Peanut Harper, there was you. What does it mean to you to be an Asian American in tennis with creating such impact, for the game? I mean, that's what APITA is all about. How do you feel being
Um,
a role model for it?
it's a great honor to be a role model, and I get to know people, and they know me, and they respect what you do and what you've done for the game, and I meet a lot of players that I used to coach, and it makes me feel old, but a lot of them are still playing tennis, and yeah, I had my disagreements with them when I was coaching, but now they come back to me and they go, "Yeah, coach, you were right. You pushed us to the limit really hard, and we kind of rebelled. But now I have my own kids, and I'm trying to, train them. That's what they tell me. And the same things you told me, they try to tell their kids. So as their kids are rebelling against them, so I'm thinking, oh, payback. So
What would you tell a young Asian American up and coming junior right now in terms of the challenges of today, the benefits of today? What would be some advice you would be able to give them?
Um, well, it's really hard work to train because you got a lot of elements in tennis. You got a lot of strokes to learn. To You've got to want to do it yourself. Not You're not playing to please your parents. You've got to have the drive to do it on your own. And I find that the kids and the students that have done the best were self motivated, and they've lasted through the game. For others that had pushy tennis parents, they often quit after a while. They burn out. But you have to have the passion and the love for the game, and the love to teach the game correctly. Um, I was very strict when I was teaching, some kids, and to do the basic fundamentals. And when other people watch them play, they go, "Oh my goodness, they have beautiful footwork, they have beautiful strokes." And I just kind of roll my eyes and I go, "It wasn't easy, but you've got to make it fun because to work that hard for hours on end, you've got to love the sport. And eventually, if you love the sport, you give back to it. So, in some way, you give back to it, and it kind of pleases you. So,
It's really not just about the physicality of the game now either. Mental health is obviously a big factor, very important.
yeah.
How would you coach a young junior now, psychologically, in the sense, everyone is good. As Novak Djokovic once said, everyone can hit forehands and backhands at a certain level. It's your mentalness that, separates you from the rest.
Um, I just think a lot of the Europeans have a bigger advantage because they live in isolated areas where they're not influenced by all these, what do you call, distractions, you know, like electronics. Kids want fast cars in high school because they think it'll please their girlfriend, and if you saw some of the countries some of the best players come from, they just had a fence, a tennis court, and they just played. They didn't have all these other gizmos that American kids have. Um, I think sometimes the kids in America get too spoiled. That that's what it is. But if you have kids that are brought up with a strong background, and I find a lot of kids that have a strong religious background, that have the structure and the discipline and know right from wrong, and follow the rules, will do well. I don't know. I just think it's disciplined, you know, and it's hard. because the kid will come home and they'll say to their parent, well, Joey can go to this party. Why can't I go? And then, the parent says, because you have to play a match at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. You can't go to a sleepover. So it's hard. Kids are growing up and they want to do what their friends do because they feel like they're missing out. But
Yeah, there's definitely a competitive, drive, but there's also a discipline factor, to all of
yeah,
this. Going back to your playing days, Tina, I know that you used to compete with women like Kathy Rinaldi,
yeah,
who obviously went on to become, captain for the Billie Jean King Cup in women's
uh huh.
tennis, and she's done so much for American tennis. What was it like, to play with the likes of Kathy Rinaldi? What was so different then in women's tennis than you think it is now? What is the biggest gap, you think?
I think people when I played on the tour were friendlier with each other and they had more friends. And now it's so competitive. Um, Very few players even have one friend on the tour. Their family is their coach, their trainer, and maybe their physio or trainer, and sometimes if you're wealthy, a chef to cook for you. So it's a very limited team, and that's your family, you know. But the players now are making astronomical amounts of money compared to when I played. So, but they have bigger teams to take care of. So, and they're making big money in endorsements. Wearing their clothes and the playing with the rackets and using the strings and you know, they have to pay their agents. So where they get their commercials and exhibition matches. So it's a big business, but
It definitely is. But Tina, I know that you've experienced tennis at every level, as I mentioned before, professionally and as a coach. What have you enjoyed most? Do you enjoy coaching? Do you enjoy playing? Is it all of the above? What drives you in
um,
each of these categories?
coaching is really tough because just to get someone to hit the ball correctly and get them to do the right strategy is tough. But when you get a player to go on autopilot, if you drill them and they do certain patterns well, and they do it in a match, or they do it in practice and they're willing to lose in practice to do those patterns, when you see the rewards, it may take a year, but it is very gratifying to see the rewards. But it's a struggle because, no one wants to learn something new and fail. So it just takes a lot of practice. And a lot of times hitting, you can get someone to do it correctly, but when it comes to these go in a match, they go back to their old way. And then you're tearing your hair out because you figure I spent 30 hours on them drilling this, and they go in the match and go back to the old way. So, it's hard, but sometimes you get breakthroughs, and it's very rewarding. So, you just have to stick with it, you know.
Well, it's been really wonderful hearing your story and your passion for the game, and as it continues to grow, it doesn't seem like it's dying anytime soon, and it is just wonderful to have you represent
Thank you.
in this tennis space and continue to represent. So thank you so much for joining us, and I am so
Thank
honored and delighted to highlight you for our APITA Asian Heritage Month.
Thank you. And one last thing, I just make sure that if you do something, a lifelong career, that you love what you're doing, because then you put all of your passion and your whole soul and body into it. And that's the most rewarding thing that you'll get out of it.
Tina Kawarsky, amen to that. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.